page 33. And here's something that you want to try to get through and understand as you're in Genesis chapter 38. What is being said? As it starts, let me identify first the main character in the story, which is Judah. Okay? This is a tribe, one of the 12 tribes of Israel, and is the origin of the word Jew. Okay? Which is one inwardly and not one outwardly. And the reason that the tribe of Judah is such a sophisticated and special part of the 12 tribes is covered in the book of Numbers. And if you look, on page 115 in the Bible, you'll see in the book of Numbers the fact that it says in Judah, in Numbers chapter 2, verse 3, and on the east side, towards the rising of the sun, shall they of the camp of Judah pitch. So on the east side, whenever you look north, east is at the right. So Judah camped at the right side at the point of the rising sun. And actually, the tribe of Judah were known as the children of light. And there's a very interesting part here. And sometimes when you seek instruction from people, I think it's sometimes also very necessary to listen to this origin of God, because there's a confirmation concerning this with the children of light, which is covered on page 115 in verse 9 of Numbers chapter 2. The constant speed of light is 186,400 miles per second. So it's very important to give you a scientific premise and basis on which you can say this, what I'm about to tell you, is documented, scientifically accurate, 100% confirmably true. For this reason, on the east side, all that were numbered in the camp of Judah, if you look at verse 9, were 100,000, 80,000, which is 80, 6,000, and 400, 186, 400. There's the constant speed of light, which is placed in the Bible and the Scripture. And people will say to me, well, nobody at that time really knew the constant speed of light. The one who wrote this story did. And it's put there so that you can look at it and say, wow, there is a source and an authority for the wisdom that is taught here. And so that's Judah. And Judah then becomes the light, the source within you. Forget about the people in this story. They don't exist. And it's silly to sit here thinking that they do. What I'm talking to you about is the source within you, which is Judah, which is that part which should be camping at the right side. Okay? And that's exactly what Judah represents. Woohoo. Battery time, battery time. Yeah, and UFOs. But okay. Here then, we look and we talk about this part of you, which will be the part which should be active at the right hemisphere of the brain, the spiritual part. And look at the very first series of words in Genesis chapter 38 and verse 1. In Genesis chapter 38 and verse 1, it says, and it came to pass at that time that Judah went down. That sums it up. Judah went down. That which should be up is down. It doesn't make any difference. You can meditate, you can read the books, you can sing the songs, you can go to church, you can have stained glass, you can do all of these things. The Hindus in India have been doing it for 7,000 years and their place is an absolute mess. something missing. Something they haven't touched or hasn't touched them. And there's a point when each one of us will have this occur. The spirit will go down. And you'll try everything under the sun to make yourself happy. You'll try everything under the sun to make yourself spiritual. You'll do everything, not realizing that there's nothing you can do. And so Judah goes down. And this becomes a very occult and amazing tale about this very special part of you. Now, this is you. There's a part of you that falls. And when that part of you falls, it starts intercoursing with the left side, with that which we call the carnal mind. And it thinks it's spiritual. Oh, yeah, I feel it. Yeah, sure, you feel it. You're feeling what's coming from that right over there, the left side. But you're doing it, you're meditating, you're praying, you're doing all of these things, but you're not waiting. You're not still. You're not allowing the flower to be opened by God. You're trying to pry it open yourself. And that's what happened. So look what happens here. And the story is set up beautifully and becomes an amazing thing. The finale is I'm looking for a word, so I'll just tell you the finale is fantastic. Genesis chapter 38:2. And Judah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite whose name was Shua. And he took her and he went into her. Do you know what the word Shua means? Pit. Pit. Joan said to me yesterday, where do you get the names of all these things? I get them out of one of the most magnificent biblical dictionaries ever written. It is a Christian dictionary, a fundamentalist Christian dictionary, written by a guy named George Easton, E-A-S-T-O-N. I told you about it. You weren't able to find it. Is every single word in the Bible that is a name and what it means. And that word means you who should be intercoursing with the Spirit, God's Spirit, have fallen and are intercoursing with the pit. And so what is going to be the offspring of this? None of us is your thoughts, is what this is being. It's talking about your activity, your mental activity, your spiritual activity, your meditational activity. You're intercoursing with the pit. So anyhow, when the Spirit comes down like that, here is a point now where you are starting in your life. You're no longer on the mountaintop. You're down here. You're intercoursing with your own mind and you're thinking it's spiritual. Whatever your meditation is, whatever your prayer is, it's not spiritual. And you'll go to meditation, you'll do this, you'll do that, but when you get home and you're experiencing your life, basically what you'll say is, this is the... And it is. But now you know where it came from. It came from your girlfriend, Pitts. So in Genesis chapter 38, verse 3, she conceives. And she bears her child, and it's very easy to see what this is. Look at the name. Wrong, error, bad deal. That intercourse between your spirit, which is not up on the mountaintop, but is down into the mind, has intercoursed with the mind and has produced thoughts that are wrong. Screwed up. Everything is screwed up. Think of yourself today. What's screwed up? Anything screwed up? Boy, this is the pits. Now you'll know why it's the pits. Because you're inside, you're not up at the mountain, you're downtown, you're intercoursing with pits, and everything is screwed up, making a lot of mistakes there. Well, that wasn't enough. Judah, who has now fallen and is that part of us which is no longer higher, comes back at her again. And she conceives a second one, and that's in Genesis chapter 38, verse 4. And the second one is named Onan, O-N-A-N, which is strong flesh. Strong flesh, the physical part of me, you know. And this is basically what you're looking for, right? What are you trying to get out of meditation? I'm trying to get something for me. You know, I'm trying to turn it on, man. I'm trying to really fly. I'm trying to make something happen. I'm trying to be in charge. I'm trying to be in control. And so I am intercoursing with pits already. I got screwed up thoughts, and I'm trying to concentrate on thinking that what is spiritual is myself, and it's not. The next child in Genesis 38:5 of the fallen spirit is called Shelah. And the word Shelah means desire, petition. Desire. So here we have the strength of the flesh and the lower mind, which is the desire of the things of the flesh. And where is this birth take place? Take a look at it. In Genesis 38:5, she was at Chezib. This is where all of this took place. Chezib. And the word Chezib means deceit. You've been deceived. You've deceived yourself. See? Because, you know, it doesn't make any difference when you start reaching out to create this type of thing that you're going to create to turn yourself on. You did it with your own mind. You did it with your own emotions. You can go into a church, you can go into a Guitarro concert, and you can see people going like this. You can go to a Rolling Stones concert and see people doing like this. It's all the same thing. Doesn't make any difference. But it depends what comes to you. Who's opening the flower? You're supposed to be up here. You're down here with the pits, with air, with the strong flesh, with the desires, with the deceit and deceiving. Either you're deceiving yourself or somebody else is deceiving you, or you're deceiving somebody else, and it goes on and on and on and on and on. So, what is produced? Wrong thoughts, the strength of the flesh and the desire born out of deceit. And there's going to be trouble. So you could take all of this and say, forget about all of these names, forget about pits, forget about all of this. But I can tell you one thing that you understand, and you can look in your life, and this is what it spells. Trouble. Trouble. And that's what's being described. Judah's supposed to be up here, but Judah's down here. See? And down here, trying to make all of these things happen, all that has occurred is trouble. And now comes a very strange, sensual young lady into the picture. And this young lady is going to be an amazing ending to a tremendous story. Her name is Tamar. Tamar. Little girl. Cute little thing. But she's a special girl. Her name means palm. In the midst of the dry desert of your mind, there is a palm. In the midst of all of the carnage and all of the attempts to do this and all of the attempts to do that, in the midst of all of this chaos in your head, there is an oasis. She just appears. She just appears. It says that Judah took a wife for Er, his firstborn, whose name was Tamar. No, but it doesn't say where she comes from. And he thinks, see, and you think that you can use that which is the Spirit, and that word palm means divine truth, and if you think that you can use the Spirit of truth to intercourse with error, you're wrong. But that's what's happening here. Lovely Tamar, I'll use the Spirit. The Spirit will intercourse with the thoughts of my mind. See. But it says, what happens? Now try to understand what this is. This error is thought. Okay? Tamar is divine spirit. Truth. Okay? When truth comes to grips with wrong thought, what occurs. Verse 7, Genesis 38. And Er, Judah's firstborn, was wicked, and the Lord slew him. The thought is killed because it came and touched the truth. Tamar. Huh? Well, Judah said then to Onan, the flesh, which are the thoughts of your ego. This is the ego. This is what you're going to get out of all of this. This is what you know, you're going to be in charge. You're going to direct yourself. Something is going to happen. You're going to make it happen. And so this is Onan. The error thought has been destroyed by the Spirit, but Tamar is still there. And now Judah says to Tamar, look, he says to Onan, look at verse 8. Judah said to Onan, go into your brother's wife and marry her. In other words, have intercourse with Tamar. And you'll continue your brother's seed. You'll continue all of the chaos. You'll continue all of the wrong thinking. You'll continue all of the crap that you have in your life. Go ahead. Do it. Try it. Make it happen. And so Onan comes to touch that which is the flesh, tries to touch that which is your ideas, that which is your skill, that which is, this is what you're going to do. And you're going to try then to make something happen inside of yourself spiritually. And this is a beautiful way that the Bible puts it. Verse 9. And Onan knew that the seed should not be his. And when he went into his brother's wife, he spilled it on the ground. That which is the flesh cannot place the seed into that which is the divine truth. You can try until you die, and it'll never happen. That's what this is trying to tell you. I have one purpose here. I have not a purpose to make you a New Age fruitcake. I have not a purpose to make you a fundamentalist religionist. I have not a purpose to make you a meditator or an undertaker. I have not a purpose to make you anything. I have a purpose for one thing only, to bring you into a communion with God. God, remember God? Gets lost in the shuffle. God. I have a desire to bring you to a point where you stroll down a lane with Krishna, with the cowherd girls in the little calf's hall with their garland flowers. I'd like you to do that. I have a desire to bring you to sit under the tree with the Shakyamuni Buddha, where he would teach you of the things of the earth and of the things of the mind. And I have a desire to bring you to the cave of Muhammad, where he can tell you and teach you of the things of the East. And I have a desire to have you sit at the table and lay your head on Jesus' breast. That's what. See? It's what these things tell you. He spills his seed. You cannot put anything, you cannot make the child awaken. It can't be done. Do you know that nobody's ever found it? Maybe a few individuals, but nobody has ever found it. And that's why the world is a mess, because you can't find it. It finds you. If you're ready, it will find you. If you think you can find it, you join the parade of the entire world, and all it will make is frustration. So the seed is spilled, and then what happens? Now what has happened? The error of thought touched the spirit, and it died, and Onan has just touched the spirit. And it says in verse 10, and the thing which he did displeased the Lord, wherefore he slew him too. Onan died. The flesh died. Do you know what happened? Do you know what just happened? The spirit killed the thoughts. The thoughts which were disturbing you. The thoughts which are physical thoughts. The thoughts which are the errors of thinking in the mind. The thoughts that you think that you can take this for. And it kills it. Onan is gone. Error is gone. Nothing of the left can enter the right side. Now, in Genesis 38:11, Judah says to Tamar, go back to your father's house. until Shelah is old enough. Shelah means desire. Know what he just told her? Know what you tell it? I don't want to bother with it. I can't deal with this until my desire is to give myself and sacrifice myself and let me be totally consumed by God. Go ahead, he says. Get out. In other words, the point being said here is when I have a desire, it will have to be for that which is spirit, but I don't now. I have a desire now for that which is myself. I have a desire now to become some kind of a new age guru. And I want to sell rocks, and I want to have crystals on my head, or I want to dance around smoke and feathers and all of this kind of stuff. But I don't really have a desire to sit and have God put his arms around me or put her arms around me. That's not exciting enough for me. So it's not ready. And you know what you're saying here? Tamar, I don't want to marry you now. I don't want to touch you. You wait till my thoughts, my desires. And Tamar's looking and she's saying, there's only one intercourse that will work. There's only one intercourse that will work. Your thoughts cannot substitute for you. Your ideas, your techniques cannot substitute for you. Your lessons, your songs, your music, it cannot substitute for you. The time is not ready. So the wait will happen. And now we get on to the climax of the story, which is one of the most magnificent occult things that I've ever seen in the Bible. But before it happens, I want to show you something. I want you to listen to something. And I got these up here, and you can have them when you leave. I've told you this, and I've told you this, and I've told you this. You've got to wait. And sometimes, and like we have Elliot that is trying to help to teach, because you need sometimes to teach. You need sometimes to guide. I'm not a good teacher in those kind of things. But I have told you over and over again, don't mess with something that you have no business touching. And I found this article written by Swami Satchidananda. It's like Rosanna Donna Dan. But and I've got it, and I made a copy of it for you because it's one of the most beautiful things and the most important things I've ever seen. And it tells this story. Because what does this happen? We're trying to start something. And so we try to get spirit. We try to think we can get spirit to go in and fool with our thoughts. And all it does is kill out the life in us. But look what he says. The power dormant in every individual is called Kundalini. It is like a coiled spring. It has tremendous power. I'm paraphrasing because I can't. You see, the macrocosm and the microcosm, that's the outside and the in, are the same in quality, but differently only in quantity. Kundalini power is released, but are we handling it properly? Isn't it better not to handle, not even to know of this tremendous power when we don't know how to handle it? The people who criticize nuclear weapons in the arms race want to go into inner space to develop their own powers by awakening their Kundalini. My question is then, will their own little world be safe when they release that hidden energy inside? What are they going to do with that power? Are they really pure and sane enough to handle it for the benefit of humanity? If the answer to the last question is no, then you are much safer without that extra power. People say, I want this power, I want to find out how to do this, I want to find out how to do that, and all this kind of stuff. And then it says, why should this power be there? Why is it hiding and sleeping in my system? If I can't use it, why is it sleeping inside of me? And he says, this is not a correct understanding. Listen very carefully, folks that are sitting in this room. Listen, quote, the power is not there for you to use, rather it is waiting for the right time to use you. That's the difference it should use you and not you it. It is the image of God in you. And he or she seems to be sleeping, but is in reality waiting to make use of you when you are ready. Which is better, God to make use of you or you to make use of God? It's not that you have to develop this power. As you grow in purity, the light begins to express itself. You will be blessed. Blessed are the pure in heart. They shall see God. The Swami quotes Jesus. It's the same. Is it possible to awaken that power while I'm still impure? The answer is yes. There are numerous methods, and many have applied them and ruined their lives, as well as the lives of many others. They begin as spiritual seekers, but without the purity of heart. Their minds were not free from egoism. Yes, they're even praying and they're even chanting mantras, but without eliminating their egoism. And even an unpure mind can focus itself. So any mind can learn to concentrate and meditate. The mind can become so focused that it can penetrate into anything, surging the power up through the different chakras. But awakening the Kundalini is not always going to be helpful to you if your mind is not clean. That's why all the scriptures, though they talk about these powers, warn seekers, be careful. And I want you to listen very carefully to what I'm going to read and what he says. When you grow on the spiritual path, when you purify your system, the power awakens. And that's the reason why one should be very, very careful in awakening it prematurely. If you're not ready to handle the snake, let it sleep. However, ultimately the divine power will be awakened. And that will bring you beautiful things. But instead of you awakening it, let it awaken by itself. Refine your body and mind. Keep the mind clear. Then the power won't sleep. It will come. It will possess you instead of you possessing it. Through the prophets, God functioned. They didn't try to use God. And I love this part here, and please listen to it. It may take a little longer, but that doesn't matter. The longer road is the safer one. When it wakes up, you're going to become a wonderful instrument, a universal person. You'll be the friend of everybody, no competition. You don't need to hate anybody. You see the whole world as your family. That should be the effect of Kundalini. So keep humble and simple. Let the entire power open up in you by first making yourself fit. Get that God, that peace and serenity, that spirit of purity and dedication. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all the rest will be added unto you. And that's what this story's about. This story is about trying to create and make out of the mind instead of allowing this to happen in beauty. And now comes that point. All error is dead. Wrong thinking is dead. Onan is dead. The power of the flesh is dead. And now look what happens. In Genesis 38, verse 12, it says, and in the process of time, the daughter of Shua, Judah's wife, died. The pit is gone. He's no longer controlled by the pit. Error is gone. The flesh is gone. The pit is gone. He is now in no way held by those lower things. And look what it says happened. In Genesis 38:12, and Judah was comforted and went up into his sheep shearers. Judah went up. And he went up to his sheep shearers. Listen to it. What's it mean, sheep shearers? Sheep are thoughts. The shearers are those who cut away the thoughts. He went up into the mountain of meditation. He went up into the mountain of meditation. And now, watch this. When you are ready, the Spirit has taken the thoughts that hurt, the thoughts of the flesh. The Spirit has taken those thoughts and cut them away in your meditation. And now you are no longer fooling with that which is the lower. You're no longer trying gimmicks to turn this or to turn that. You've moved upward into that which is the mountain experience. And look what it says here. It says, and it was told in verse 13 to Tamar, your father-in-law is going up to shear his sheep. And she put her widow garments off and covered her with a veil and sat in an open place. She followed him to the mountain. When you go to the mountain, She will come if you're ready. If you're not there, nothing you do in the world will make her come. So get this picture. The mountain is dark. The mountain is windy. Down across the hills you can see a fire here and a fire there, and you can hear the wailing of a wolf, and she sits in an open place and she has a black veil over her face. And that veil is the same veil that it says in Hebrews 6:19, which hope we have that enters into within that veil. See, she was never allowed to intercourse with Shelah, which is the desires of your heart. So now she sits up there. And when you go into meditation, when you rise up, don't think you can see and you can know, because you won't. The veil covers her face. You won't know. And the story allegorically portrays that here on the mountaintop, Judah sees this in the mountain of the meditation, and he walks up to this woman with this veil. He has no idea who it is, and he looks at her. And Judah, it says in verse 15, thought she was a whore, a harlot, a prostitute, because she had covered her face. And he goes over to her and he said,
Oh, no.
I wouldn't do that to anybody this morning. He comes over and he says, I want to have sex with you. And from behind her veil she says, how much are you willing to pay? How much are you willing to pay? Ask yourself that. You want to intercourse with the Spirit on the mountain? You think it's a free ride? You think, When you get up there, how much are you willing to pay? And she says, he said, what do you want? How much do you want? And she says, Genesis 38, verse 17, he said, I'll give you a kid from the flock. I'll give you the child. I'll give you the child. And from behind her veil, she says, I tell you what I want. She says in verse 17, give me a pledge. Give me a commitment. Demonstrate that you're serious. You're on the mountaintop. Do you know who this is behind the veil? This is God. A little sensual, beautiful, attractive young girl is God. And she said, give me a commitment. I don't want to fool with you. I don't have time to fool. I want to know you're serious. She says, I want your signet, your sign, your seal. I want yourself. I want you. And I don't need any of your techniques, and I don't need any of your music, and I don't need any of your books, and I want you. You're going to give me the child? You give me a commitment. Give me your signet. I want you. And I also want your bracelets. I want your physical attachments. I want every part of you. And I want your staff. I want your power. Give me the staff. Give me the kid. Give me the bracelets. Give me everything you've got. Then you can come in to me. So, the act takes place, they have sex, the intercourse takes place, because don't you see what's happened? It's just like Jacob. He sent everything he had over to the other side. Don't you see what happens? You took no thought. You separate from your thoughts. You gave everything. You didn't do anything. You just gave it and said, let me have you. You made a commitment. A commitment. And so it turns around. It says in the book, in the Bible, that after this had occurred, she arose in verse 19, put on the garments and went away, and Judah gathered up the stuff that he was supposed to. He says, I can't find this prostitute. He says, where is that prostitute? And they said, there is no prostitute around here. you talking about? Verse 20. And they said, if we can't find her. And it came to pass, look at verse 24. It came to pass 3 months later that he found this little girl. And this little girl said, is this your bracelet? Is this your staff? Is this your seal? And he looked up at his daughter-in-law, Tamar. And he realized in the story he had intercourse with himself. Because he had held back his desire and he had tried to do all of these things through the mind. And then finally, when his emotions died, the wife, when he went to the mountain, he was confronted with this strange woman who sat at the mountaintop. And she asked for a commitment, and he gave it. And that which he was trying to, listen, that which he was trying to use down in the lower parts, used him in the higher parts. She had killed out the thoughts, and now she was providing the child. And it says in Genesis chapter 38 and verse 28, when she travailed, one put out his hand, and the midwife took and bound upon his hand a scarlet thread, saying, this came out first. But it came to pass, he drew back his hand, his brother came out. And she says, how have you broken the breach? In other words, that which put out its hand to receive the scarlet thread was that which comes second, the spirit. And pulled his hand back, but it had the scarlet thread, which is divine love, divine life. And so that which is the flesh came out first, that which is the divine life came out second, which keeps consistent with all biblical prophecy and theory. But here you had this magnificent thing of the spirit within you trying to make something out of the mind, out of the lower, trying to create religion, trying to create spirit, trying to make these things happen. Until finally everything fell apart, everything died because the same spirit had turned to slay and kill out all of this negativity, forcing you to the mountain. She followed you there and sat behind a veil and made you commit yourself and your life to this magnificent nirvanic meditation. And once you did that, you realized that that Tamar was a very part of your own family, a very part of your own mind, a very part of your own soul. And you gave birth to the child with the scarlet thread, and divine life became yours. So you can't think that you can structure your spiritual walk. Just sit by the road and say, I'll wait for you. Like the Swami said, when you're ready, she'll come. Bye-bye.